Courage the Cowardly Dog is a show known for its unique storytelling and visuals, leaving a strong imprint on the generations that have watched it. Today, I am going to review episode 7 of season 4, entitled The Mask, which originally aired on October 18th, 2002. I will recap the plot and then discuss various themes the episode explores, perhaps none more prominent than queer love overcoming. Creepy music plays over the rising sun of nowhere. As Muriel collects eggs adjacent to a sleeping Courage, a masked figure approaches. Seeing Courage, the figure states, "Dogs are evil," and repeatedly beats him with a sink. Muriel assumes the woman to be Courage's new friend and invites her in. Inside, enjoying breakfast, the masked figure shares her story. Her name is Kitty, and she's from the wrong side of the tracks. She continues as she prepares a cup of tea. Her closest friend, Bunny, fell in love with a gangster who treats her like a slave, to which Eustace replies, "My kind of guy." I'll destroy Eustace and his character later on, don't worry. Kitty continues, "He's a low-down, dirty dog," which Courage takes offense to. "When he found out I was trying to get Bunny to run away," Kitty says, pausing to sip tea which humorously just spills right down her mask, "he threatened my life." Kitty continues that she was forced to leave her home and her best friend Bunny. She cannot bear the truth that she'll never see her again. Muriel expresses sympathy at her story. The awful Eustace tells her to take the mask off so she can see better, causing Kitty to swipe the dishes to the floor. She walks away, again stating that dogs are evil. Later that day, Kitty walks in on Courage watching and laughing at a cat versus dog program on television, echoing their own dynamic. She proceeds to beat him with Muriel's halibut. Cut to Muriel plunging away at the toilet, asking Courage to work on it as she goes to get Eustace. Kitty walks in and uses Courage as a plunger, briefly interrupted by Eustace, who apologizes and lets her continue. And then Courage gets flushed away, Muriel falsely believing Eustace fixed the toilet. Night falls and the group is having dinner. Interestingly, at breakfast, Courage has a place at the table and a plate of the same food as the others, but at dinner he is laying on the floor. Eustace continues to prod Kitty about her mask, asking what she's hiding from and that she can't eat while wearing the mask. Her reply, "I simply don't wish to face reality." I feel that, girl. Muriel softly tells her that they all must face reality. Kitty then proceeds to read them for filth, saying, "Really? Like when you sneak extra sweets when no one is watching?" Eustace admonishes Muriel, and then Kitty cuts in, "And you say you can fix anything," when he has been shown to not be able to fix all that much. After, Muriel fixes a bed for Kitty in the attic. In bed, Muriel and Eustace stew on what Kitty called them out on, but they enable each other and head to bed. Courage spies on Kitty through the door's keyhole and sees her play with a mouse toy and take off her mask, showing her feline face, terrifying Courage. He locks her in and awakens his humans to warn them that Kitty is a monster. Muriel gives solid advice, saying all they know is that she is from the wrong side of the tracks. To better understand her, try to see the world the way she sees it. Courage's fear runs rampant here, and he imagines her eating Eustace. He then thinks that if he brings the mouse toy into the authorities, that this wanted terror will be destroyed by armed forces. He imagines his happy ending of celebrating her demise, with Eustace still dead and half-eaten, which is kind of funny. He locks in the humans for their protection and sneaks in to steal the toy from Kitty, then heading into town. Indulging in a milkshake at the diner, Courage examines the toy, which states, "To Kitty, love Bunny." Charlie, our Rat King ally, sees the mouse and tells Courage that Kitty's in a bad way without Bunny. He says, "Those two was the sweetest gals that ever lived. But Bunny's guy, Mad Dog, he didn't like them being so friendly-like. He's one nasty piece of jealousy." He informs Courage that he and his gang live down the road. Back at the house, Muriel needs to use the restroom, but can't open the locked door. She wakes Eustace, who also fails. Muriel snaps at him, saying Kitty was right, he really can't fix a thing. He retorts, "Oh yeah, you want some chocolate?" Back to Courage, now approaching Mad Dog's compound. He crosses the tracks to the wrong side, shown as dilapidated and polluted. Mad Dog, his leather jacket-clad henchman, and Bunny pull up. They drag a lifeless-looking Bunny inside. Cut to Kitty, who wakes up as she realizes her mouse toy is missing, causing her to go ballistic. She shouts it must have been that dog who took it. They're all alike. They steal what you love the most. Eustace is pushed out the window by Muriel so he can unlock the doors from the outside. Back on the wrong side of the tracks, Mad Dog yells at Bunny for thinking about Kitty and making him second rate. He threatens, "If I even smell Kitty, I'll bury the two of ya," causing Bunny to cry. She pretends to hug him and then attaches his collar to the light, taking the opportunity to try to escape. His hounds catch and stop her. At the house, Eustace continues to fail to open the locked doors with increasingly powerful tools. Meanwhile, Muriel is able to open the door and pick the lock with a simple bobby pin. Courage sees Bunny from the window, who has been buried in a giant pot, which is kind of funny in its absurdity. Upon seeing Courage, she gets upset. "Not another dog!" He shows her Kitty's toy to gain her trust and then bursts through the window. He begins to dig her out, continually overcoming his fear by motivating himself with even more fear in the form of worrying that Kitty might hurt his loved ones. A hound bursts in, and Courage turns off the light and beats the dog with a shovel. He resumes his rescue of Bunny. Back at home, Muriel gives Eustace the bobby pin to open the attic door as he says, he could have thought of that, with Muriel chiming in that she has decided to cut back on sweets. They find the attic void of Kitty, with the mask lying among the ruined room. With the henchounds taken care of, Mad Dog then approaches as Courage and Bunny head out the window, narrowly escaping. We see Muriel and Eustace share a nice moment, all things considered, in their bed before cutting to an approaching train on the tracks. Courage and Bunny run on foot as Mad Dog approaches via car. Courage hands over the mouse toy and jumps in the car to get Mad Dog off her tail, with him ending up smashed by the oncoming train. Choo-choo, motherfucker. Bunny thanks Courage. She then sees Kitty at the back of the train, telling her the dog saved her life. Kitty says she was wrong. Not all dogs are bad. Bunny hops onto the train and the two reunite. As they happily embrace, Kitty says now they can be best friends forever. Oh, and they were roommates. They thank Courage as they ride off into the night. Good girls, get your asses out of nowhere, Kansas, and get to a city like San Francisco or Portland or New York or something. The episode comes to a close back at the house with Courage returning home the next morning. We also see that Eustace is wearing the mask, asking for a bobby pin as he fails to fix the furnace. Okay, go off, Toxic Queen, I guess. The end. Quick note here, closing songs used to be more prevalent and more important. Back in the day, Cartoon Network would play the whole ending song and not immediately just minimize it in the corner while blasting a commercial or promo for something else. It feels like a lost art form, and I have always loved Courage's ending song. Okay, so lots to talk about here. First of all, I love the episode. I wanted to revisit it and was slightly dreading it actually, but now I see there was no reason for that. I haven't seen this show in many years and remembered finding parts of this episode scary and off-putting, which is kind of the point of Courage, and I do like to expose myself to it and then dissect it a bit, embracing the dark with the light. I know this has been said many times, many ways, but this show could legitimately be quite terrifying. I still recall being traumatized by the Flawn episode after watching it while on vacation with my family. It has some really great moments as well, and one episode that did not overly scare me, and the one I would classify as my favorite, is Doc Gerbil's World, aka Human Habitrail. I freaking love it. Especially the intense operatic music that plays when they go over the waterfall. This episode, The Mask, feels a bit more grounded than others, as the themes and topics, though yes utilizing anthropomorphic animals, are very real and human. Included in these themes are LGBTQ+ love and rights, specifically women love women, abuse, and lying to and hiding from oneself. Additionally, I think it highlights the power and strength of women, as shown with Muriel's bobby pin as an example. Sometimes a light touch is more powerful than brute strength. Which brings me to my Eustace bashing before I explore the other themes I mentioned. I have always had disdain for Eustace, as I'm sure most do, and as is the point. He is a foil to Courage and Muriel. Him rooting on Mad Dog treating Bunny like a slave, and just generally treating Muriel, and especially Courage, like shit, literally abusing them, is unacceptable and vile. As I was getting into the episode, I made the note, does Eustace have any redeeming qualities? An abusive man can really just suck the joy out of life, in addition to causing near irreparable damage both physically and mentally. As I watched, I saw that, okay, he has some semblance of real feelings for Muriel, but that trait is nowhere near enough for him to not be judged to smithereens by me. I will say, I did find the antics of increasing firepower to try to unlock the door, and his ongoing incompetence, to add a layer of humor to the episode, so I guess I can give him that. Still hate him though. He and Muriel having to come to grips with their bad habits and their self deceit was another good aspect of this episode, and they actually were fairly supportive of each other for that process. I had the hypothesis while watching this that Eustace may just be extremely jealous of Courage and of the affection and purity of his bond with Muriel. Is Eustace just so insecure that he is triggered by their love and thus takes it out on his dog? Ancient astronaut theorists say yes. Moving on to Kitty and Bunny. We can obviously see that they are in love and are depicted as a couple. I would go so far as to say that it is explicitly stated via comments they make, as well as comments from Charlie the Diner Rat and Mad Dog. It is still fairly rare to see lesbian couples depicted in children's media, but even more so back in 2002. So this episode shows that in a way that is real and emotionally compelling. It does give the out with the best friend rather than lover label, but it does that to be more wide-reaching and less polarizing, though LGBTQ plus people's existence and their relationships should never be considered polarizing. But I think back to the fact that in 2005, the Arthur spinoff, Postcards from Buster, was essentially cancelled from simply featuring a lesbian couple. Insanity. By the way, as if it wasn't obvious, my channel is 100% a safe space for everyone, and no discrimination or hatred will ever be tolerated. Moving on to touch on the abuse aspect a bit more, I think the dynamic between Bunny and Mad Dog really showcased the true fear and feeling of being trapped that victims can experience from abusers, in romantic relationships and otherwise. I was actually a bit scared by the visceral anger and violence demonstrated via the dogs in this episode. Very well done from a storytelling lens. I also want to comment on Kitty's repeated line of dogs are evil, likely allegorically referring to men. Though so much hurt is caused by men, especially to women, especially to queer women, not all men are bad. Just as Kitty and Bunny learn, not all dogs are bad. It can be easy to generalize against an entire group if you have been hurt and oppressed by a member of it, but taken too far, it can cause even more hatred and divide. This episode also brings to mind a quote from the TV show Supernatural. A recurring side character, Ed of the Ghostfacers, states, "Gay love can pierce through the veil of death and save the day." Not sure why the writers seemed to forget that when it was most applicable, though. I will never be okay with the finale, and indeed the last few seasons of that show, but my video on how Dean's character was assassinated while Castiel was neutered will wait for another day. Jack may be the only redeeming quality of that era. In any event, I was just reminded of the idea that love, whether queer or not, does in fact hold miraculous and healing powers. I'm not claiming your Tinder match is going to bring you back to life, but to be seen, understood, and loved can do so much for someone. Inversely, when those things are absent from one's life, life can feel a hell of a lot harder. Both Kitty and Bunny have been through it in life, but their love brings them joy and hope and healing. In conclusion, I want to discuss my reasoning for revisiting this episode at this particular time. I obviously saw the episode as a kid, being the chronic TV watcher that I was, but prior to making this video, the other time I remember watching it was with a girl I was dating back in college. We stayed up watching nostalgic old media together one night, ranging from Winx Club to Totally Spies to Samurai Jack, and when she mentioned the Lesbian Courage episode, I was like, wait, what? That exists? Indeed, the girlies in the episode are gay, and I wanted to take a look back at this right now as June is Pride Month. I'm bisexual, and I feel I never really do enough to celebrate that, so here is a small way for me to do so. I also have experience with abuse, so this one hits home for sure. Thank you for watching this. I hope you got something out of my analysis, or at the very least, enjoyed looking back at this treasure of a show. I would love to hear any thoughts you have in the comments. Please like and subscribe if you're feeling it. I talk about a lot of nostalgic media on my channel if that's something you are into. Love courageously and have a beautiful day, my friends.